How's it going, guys? Welcome to Minimize Media. I'm your host James and welcome to the follow-up of my playthroughs of both the original Crash Bandicoot 2 Cortex Strikes Back and the N-Sane Trilogy version for the PlayStation 4. Now, for those of you that don't know, I played both versions on the channel back to back so that I could do a fair comparison straight away, like back to back from each other, because I think a lot of people that have played the N-Sane Trilogy, it's been a long time since they've actually played the original. So I thought it'd be really cool to just play the original and then play the remake straight after and then see how it feels like. Because I've done remakes and remasters on the channel before. I've played the Medieval remake on the channel and the Final Fantasy VII remake, but that one really doesn't count. But that was months apart, like for the Medieval one, that was about a year apart. So, but I thought it would be really cool to play these two back to back and then give you my thoughts on how they both feel, like right next to each other. I suppose the first question is, why didn't I play the first Crash Bandicoot game? Well, there's a couple of reasons for that. First of all, I've only ever played the original Crash Bandicoot once. Maybe twice, to my memory. I didn't grow up with it and I didn't get it when it first came out. So I don't have any nostalgic ties to the original Crash Bandicoot game. And the time that I did play it, I didn't massively enjoy it. I thought the controls it felt a bit clunky to me. So it's not a game that I've had a long time playing. Do you know what I mean? Whereas I grew up with Crash Bandicoot 2. I don't know what it was about Crash 2 that I wanted, but I don't even remember how we bought it. But I know that I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I've been playing it my whole life, and it's a big game for me from when I was growing up. I think it was the first 3D platforming game that I ever played. I think that's the case with a lot of people as well. So I have that nostalgic tie to it, and of course the channel here is about that sort of nostalgia to the late 90s and early 2000s. And I have a lot of great personal memories of playing the game when I was younger. So I chose Crash Bandicoot 2. And that's why I also think that Crash Bandicoot 2 plays so much better than the original, which is good because it's building from the original. Cool, so you'll have to bear with me because I'm sort of spitballing this. I had some ideas to do like a scoring system and blah, 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 but it felt a bit sort of artificial for me. I just wanted to talk about the games more from I don't know, a realistic standpoint. I wanted to make it more about me having a chat about the games rather than me making this big artificial video about which is better, which, you know, a point to this game, a point to that game, and blah, blah, blah. Because that's not really my style. I'm more of a just throw things at the camera and see how it comes out kind of guy. So, let's do it. Let's talk about both versions and let's get my viewpoint on both versions. Let's get some positives in here first. I think one of the things that I can definitely say is that graphically, both these games are still like beautiful, still really nice look. I think with the update of the modern graphics and stuff, obviously the N-Sane Trilogy looks incredible. It's a great looking game. I have some design issues that I personally have, but in terms of the graphics and how much effort went into making it look really nice, yeah, top notch. Having said that, I still think the original looks fantastic. It's got this polygony-ness to it, and I know a lot of people get turned off from that kind of thing, especially with this new console generation we're in with the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X1P, W, World War II, whatever they call it now, because Xbox have no idea how to name their consoles properly. But anyway, yeah, I think it still looks fantastic. Really, really great looking game. It was still, I know for me, maybe it's just my nostalgia glasses, but I still got this really nice feeling from how it looked graphically. And one thing, if I were to do this sort of arbitrary points thing, I would still give the points to the original Crash Bandicoot because some of the design choices on the enemies, like there were a few enemies that I noticed throughout the game, and I know it sort of makes sense narratively if there's a narrative running through Crash Bandicoot, which there's a story, but a lot of the enemies in the original Crash were just sort of animals, and I don't know if I didn't notice it or if they weren't or not, but a lot of the same enemies in the N-Sane trilogy had all this roboticness on them, and they felt a bit more, that they had like sort of like a red eye and a bit of metal on them, and I don't know if that's how it's supposed to be, but I enjoyed the look of the original designs of the enemies. There's also little things that I preferred about the original. Like, take the penguin enemy, for instance. That's one of the ones that jumped out to me, like, massively. It's like, in the original game, while they are annoying and they are the enemies, I thought that the penguin enemies particularly were quite cute. Whereas in the remake, they look really weird. I don't know what it is. I just don't like their design, like, at all. Like, I don't know what it is. I'm not sure what I can put my finger on. Again, it might be the nostalgia glasses. But in terms of design choice for the enemies, I do prefer the original. I don't want to harp on too much about graphics, because that's not really my thing. I don't care if a game is Super HD or 144p, as long as I think it looks good and it plays great. I'm not really a graphics guy, do you know what I mean? I'm not really in it for the hyper-realism and stuff like that. I just care if a game is fun to play, and the story is engaging. That's really all I care about. So, not to dwell on that too much, but the one thing in favour of the N-Sane trilogy is that the level design looks much nicer. It feels much nicer. Like, Crash's character model's really nice, with all the fur moving around as you move around. One thing that bugged me, which is a stupid thing to get bugged about, I know, is Crash's little dance. You know, when his victory dance. Like, he does all the movements properly, but they took out the hip thrust and made it more of a silly sort of janky side movement, which feels like a weird thing to change. It feels like a little bit of a censorship, which is so weird to say. Like, this is a Crash Bandicoot game, but the original definitely had some Ace Ventura hip thrusting, and I know it looks dumb and it's a stupid thing to point out, but I just wanted to point it out that they changed that. Like, the rest of the dance is fine, but I'm talking about Crash Bandicoot's dance. But the hip thrust was gone and it was made into this silly little thing, and I don't know. It's just something that I just saw and I just wanted to point it out. I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. Right, let's move on to the most important thing, which is the gameplay. This is a big one for me. For anyone who's watched the two series back to back, or even if you've watched just little bits here and there of both the playthroughs, which I'll leave a link in the description below to both playlists, so you can check out. I played the original first, and then I played the N-Sane trilogy. In the description below, there will be links, so go and check them out if you haven't already. But if you're here just to get my sort of thoughts on the gameplay, then this is the easiest decision for me. I think in terms of the actual handling of the game, I think genuinely, this is nothing to do with nostalgia and blah blah blah. I've been really racking my brain as to if it's my fault or if it's not. But the point I'm trying to make is, I think the gameplay in the original version is way better. Way better. The actual controlling of Crash, I don't know if it's because my brain is hardwired to make up for the flaws in the movement of the original, and the newer one has got better movement and more accurate jumping, and I'm just overcompensating or undercompensating depending on how the original plays. But let me just put it this way. The evidence that I have presented for myself and for the channel is that I originally slipped into the shoes of the original and was straight in and was enjoying the game and was racking up like extra lives and instantly having fun, just like really in it. And on the first level. The first level of the N-Sane trilogy, I was really hyped to play this game because I was like, why would you not think that a next gen game, which is what this is, would not handle amazingly? Now, the evidence I present to you is that instantly I didn't like the way it felt. Like, instantly I was like, it didn't feel responsive. I didn't feel like Crash was running fast enough. And, well, the only thing I can say is that compared to the original, I got a game over in the first level of the N-Sane Trilogy, which surprised me, like, because I know I'm not that bad at games. So, what was it? Did I need to adjust my playstyle to fit the N-Sane Trilogy? It kind of felt like that. And the first, like, let's take the first 4 episodes of the original, my playthrough of the original, and the first 4 episodes of the N-Sane Trilogy. My first 4 episodes of the original, right up until the second boss, which is the Komodo brothers. Yeah. I was having a blast and having loads of fun, and it felt really nostalgic and fun, and I was dying, don't get me wrong, but it felt like I was always advancing, and it felt fun to play. Whereas the first 4 levels of the N-Sane Trilogy, I felt, this is just my opinion, don't forget, like, you may have a different experience of it, and of course, if you do have a different experience of it, leave it in the comments below. I'd love to know your experiences of the 2 different versions. But my experience with those first 4 levels is that I felt like I was battling with the game itself to get to the end of the levels, and not in a gameplay challenge way, in a controlling Crash kind of way. I felt like he wasn't responding to me the way I wanted him to respond. Is that weird? It feels weird saying it out loud, but I felt like the gameplay, the actual controlling of Crash felt not great. And it wasn't until some of the later ones, I did episode 5 and 6 of the N-Sane Trilogy version, that I started to maybe compensate for the different controls and start to have fun with the game. But even then, I still kept dying, and and I know this sounds like a massive cop-out, but I honestly believe that some of those deaths weren't necessarily my fault. There's a lot of things I cut out of the video to make it a bit shorter and make it a bit more sort of punchy. And there's a lot of deaths I cut out to make it more punchy, because I would just get to the same point and keep dying at the same time every time. And I know for a fact that I could do these specific bits in the original because I just did them. So, in terms of actual handling of Crash, in my opinion, no competition. No competition whatsoever. The original is way better. It feels better. And again, that might be me. And that might be my adjustment to how it used to play. And obviously, it's going to have flaws. It's an older game now, and we've come a long way. And maybe a lot of those flaws were corrected with the N-Sane Trilogy version, but I could not adjust to those adjustments. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, the way it handles in the PlayStation 4 version, I didn't care for it, man. I didn't like it. And I did get into it towards the end, especially those last couple of episodes. I felt like I was really having fun and getting into it, but I still felt like I was battling with the controls. And when you're playing a game and you're battling with the controls, a platform game especially, it really subtracts a lot of the fun. I know there are games that have bad controls on purpose. Silent Hill is definitely one of those, that it sort of has those clunky controls to make you feel, because the main character is a clunky human being that would naturally react in that environment. And there are games like Octodad which have terrible controls, on purpose. But this game is supposed to be able to react to me, so that I can do the platform challenges and the bosses and things like that off my own merit. And when you're battling with the platforms and the bosses and the controls, it definitely became a little bit of a pain. Whereas in the original, if I kept dying, at least I know it's my own fault and I can get better. I don't want to have to feel like I'm fighting with the game to play the game, if that makes any sense. Again, Let me know what you guys think. If you noticed, if you've played both of them and you've noticed any change in the controls and how they feel, then please validate me and make me feel like I'm not crazy by... They feel different. They do feel different. They certainly did to me. So, but again, I'd love to know what you guys think, so let me know in the comments below. There was one gameplay thing that I think massively improved in the N-Sane Trilogy version, and that is definitely the water motorboard. What is that? Like a motor surfboard? That bit is 100 million times better in the N-Sane Trilogy. It's way more responsive. It's weird. It's kind of like the opposite to how I feel about the actual controls of the game. But it's super responsive. I feel like I know where I'm going. I feel like I can dodge things and a little bit more accurately. Whereas in the original, I feel just out of control on those things completely. But then again, are you supposed to feel out of control on those things? That's part of the challenge. That's a part of the game where the gameplay is supposed to be a bit fiddly and a bit difficult for you to overcome. Which is weird, because in the N-Sane Trilogy, I felt like that was one of the easiest parts for me, which is really weird to say now that I'm thinking about it. But that's probably one merit that I could give the game. Those bits are definitely better. When I inverted the controls with the jetpack levels, when I inverted the controls at the very end of only the second level you get to play on that, I felt like it handled better. But fancy me not changing the controls, eh? Again, if you don't know what I mean, description below is where the playlists to those are, and that's obviously one of the later episodes, so go and check that out and see how horrifically I handled those. But I'm going to have to give the point, again, to the original for that one, because if the waterboarding bit is supposed to be difficult to handle, and I'm supposed to overcome that, then the original achieves that. Whereas the remake makes that bit, for me, one of the easiest bits in the whole game. Briefly going back to like graphics and stuff like that, one of the things I want to talk about is the actual the dialogue and stuff. Again, it might be my nostalgia glasses, and I'm going to keep saying that, but I still think the original dialogue is better. I think the way it's delivered is better. It feels more natural with the game. Whereas the newer one felt more like it was trying to be a zany cartoon, which I get it. It looks like a zany cartoon, and it is done fantastically. Like the way that when you see Cortex's head just appear in front of you, and the way it moves, and the way his eyes move, and stuff. I'll come back to eyes in a minute because I want to talk to you about something. But the way that he actually acts and his face, the facial animations of it, is really, really fun and great, but I still just love the original way that it looks. And it is polygony, and it is a bit sort of dated looking. I hate that term, but it is sort of dated looking. But I still think that it looks better. I really do. I like the way he would talk between his teeth. Again, that's nostalgia talking. That's just silly. But the way that the new one does it, it felt a bit like it was trying too hard to look better than the original, and therefore overcompensating, maybe. Also, right, eyes. What is going on with Coco's eyes? Right, so in the original, which I'll probably have videos like popping up here and there, in the original, Coco's face just looks like Coco, and she's got that big, massive bit of hair in front of her, like she's a lanternfish. But in the original, she just looks like Coco. But in the remake, she's got this mad, like cross-eyed thing going on, and it's like, what was the point in that? Why is she so cross-eyed? What's happening here? And I get it; it's for the cartooniness of it. But I think in terms of the dialogue delivery between the warp rooms, I definitely enjoyed the original more. Like, I'm saying that quite a bit in this, but I'll give you my overall thoughts at the end of this video. But I think in terms of, the dialogue delivery between with the big heads is the original wins out for me. One of the features they obviously added to the N-Sane Trilogy, because all three games are on it, is the fact that you could also play as Coco, and I think I did for 1 or 2 levels. Nice, but pointless. So I can't be like, oh, I wish in the original I could play as Coco as well. That would have been awesome for the original. I'm glad they put that in this version. I don't really care either way. I'm here to play as Crash, and they play identically anyway, so it served no real purpose changing the characters other than, hey, look, you can play as Coco now. Felt a bit pointless. It felt like it was just thrown in there because Crash 3 is on there. So I can't really give it a point for that. So again, anything I say here, I want to know your guys' opinion on it as well. Let me know, because I'd love to hash it out with you guys and see and get your point of view on it, because you might think completely different from me. And yeah, I'd just like to hear your opinion on it. Okay, so the big question is, do I prefer the original, or do I prefer the N-Sane Trilogy version of Crash Bandicoot 2 Cortex Strikes Back? And I mean, judging by this whole video, you probably have guessed that this is not a difficult decision, but it's gonna have to go to the original Crash Bandicoot 2. I think one of the things that I'd like to point out is that I still think this game holds up. I still think it is a great game to go back to and look back on and replay. In fact, if someone said to me, I want to play Crash Bandicoot, should I get the N-Sane Trilogy or should I buy a PlayStation and get the original? I would, without hesitation, say go and get the original, because I genuinely think it is better in every way. I think the character models are better, even though they're polygony. I think the dialogue is better. I think the levels are better. And again, it's the same game, but copy-pasted and made prettier. But I don't think the N-Sane Trilogy has improved on what is already an amazing game. So that's my final thoughts. Which one do I prefer? Hands down, the original wins every single time, because it's just great. It's just a great game to play. I will get a hankering to play this again in a couple of years' time, maybe even a couple of months' time, who knows. I do want to get back and get all the gems, because that's something that I had never done, got all the gems. So that might be something, I might do a couple of bonus videos on that, maybe. We'll see what happens. I know I said that in the videos, but yeah, the original wins for me. I prefer the original over the N-Sane Trilogy version. Also, if you go and buy an original PlayStation or a PlayStation 1, you can also buy Metal Gear Solid and Crash 3 and all the great games that come with that. So, I mean, if you're gonna get each version, go and buy a PlayStation 1, and then you'll get to experience a whole bunch of other great games as well. So, that's a no-brainer for me. Cool, there you have it, guys. That is my opinion on having played both versions of Crash Bandicoot 2 Cortex Strikes Back. All in all, really fun playing both versions. It was really nice to play an older game and then play a newer interpretation of it. Again, like I said, I've done that before. I played the remake of Medieval on the channel, which I'll leave a link in the description below to that one as well if you want to check that out. But it was really nice to play. Just more than anything, it's just nice to revisit Crash Bandicoot, because it's such an iconic platform game. It's like an iconic game for the early, for the PlayStation, because the PlayStation obviously became the market leader for many years after that, and Crash Bandicoot was a big factor in helping it become a market leader over Sega and Nintendo, which ruled the roost for many years. So, and for me, huge nostalgia for that game. Played it for hours and hours and hours. I completed it multiple times. Not fully completed it, didn't get all the gems, so that's something I've got to think about. But super fun, and it was just great to be able to compare the two, but mostly it was just great to play the original. So thank you for joining me on this video. Have you played the N-Sane Trilogy? Have you not played it and you've only played the original, and you're not interested, or you want to get the new one and see how it feels? answer all of these questions in the comments below. Let me know what you guys think. Do you prefer the N-Sane Trilogy version? And if so, why do you prefer it? What's better about it for you? Do you prefer the way it looks? Do you not like the polygon designs of the originals because maybe you didn't grow up with those? Maybe you're a bit younger than I am, which is not hard because I'm 33 now. So yeah, let me know anything that you want to talk about in relation to Crash Bandicoot. Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to have a chat about that. I'm a bit better about answering comments at the moment, so get in while the iron's hot. And if you do want to check out both my playthroughs, description below, you'll be able to check them out. They're both in a playlist. 2 separate playlists as well, so they're not all muddled up. Check them out, let me know what you think, see how terrible I am at games, and yeah, there's also a whole bunch of other content down below from the PlayStation 1. I've played Metal Gear Solid, I've played Silent Hill, I've played loads and loads of old school games from like PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2, so if you want to go and check those out, I'd be super grateful. And thank you for joining me on this one. It's been fun to talk about Crash Bandicoot. Anyway, if you enjoyed this episode, then please support the channel by hitting the subscribe button, then click the notification bell, spread the word, and always remember to take it easy.